My first time drinking Prime. This is actually pretty good. It says that it only has 1 gram of sugar, but I don't know. It's pretty sweet. Must be the coconut water. I think it has coconut water in it. I'm on a diet, guys. I've come on here a couple times over the past couple of weeks and told you guys that I'm on a diet. I'm down 7 pounds officially. So shout out to your boy. I'm trying to lose 30 pounds by November. 30 pounds by the end of November. And tomorrow, for those of you who care or are interested, I am actually going to go swimming for the first time in like 10 years, right? I'm trying to find different ways to exercise and lose weight that don't involve me, running and jogging as much. I went through about a 4 to 5 year span where I ran probably about 30 miles a week. I was in phenomenal shape. This was about 8 years ago, almost a decade ago. And I just have horrible knees. So I'm going to try and pick up swimming at the gym and see how that feels. Tonight, I want to talk about my top 10. I didn't want to call them commandments because I didn't want to go down that road and offend anybody. But I'm going to say top 10 rules for security. Okay, hang on a second. Top 10 rules for security. Thou shalt, right? These would be things that you either should do or shouldn't do in 2024. So I'm going to go through those, and then if there's any questions, I'll answer the questions at the end, all right? I'm done with my shift tonight. So number 10, we're going to go from 10 to 1, all right? What did I write down? All right. So number 10 is that you shall not work unlicensed. Unlicensed security guards, I would assume, I'm going to go out on a limb and just make this assumption. Unlicensed security guards make up the lion's share of issues that we have in private security. The issues of people going overboard, shooting someone, doing something that they're not supposed to be doing, a lot of times this can be directly related to people who are unlicensed. And why is that? Well, if you're licensed in security, regardless of where you're working, what state you're in, you're at least going through the basics of going through the motions of understanding what you can, what you can't do. There's oversight, right? There's at least a barrier of entry, a bar of entry. And sometimes that can be really low depending on where you are and what you're doing. But situations where people aren't licensed at all, you're putting someone in a position of assumed authority. We realize that private security guards don't really have any authority or very little authority at that. But when you put people in a position of perceived power or authority, it can go to their head. And so if there's no oversight, if there's no training, there's no accountability, when you have people that are working in unlicensed environments, things go south. Where do you find this? Hip hop after parties, right? The local corner store in the hood or the rural area, rodeos, all of these places where things tend to go south. It's because people are working unlicensed. So number 10 is do not work unlicensed. Now, very similar to that is number 9. Thou shalt not work under the table. And the reason why you should not be working under the table is because you end up lowballing the offer in the exchange of security for money. The people that work under the table, the people that work for less than the going rate, that's detrimental to the entire industry of security. We call those people bottom feeders, right? Bottom feeders in terms of the officers that take those jobs, and bottom feeders in terms of the companies that offer services for close to nothing. If you do that, you're undervaluing what we bring to the table, and it makes it hard for everybody else to eat. So thou shalt not work unlicensed would be number 10. Number 9 is under the table. When I say under the table, I mean under the table in terms of not being above board, but also under the table of what the standard rate is for private security. You should not be bottom feeding and making it hard for everybody else to eat. All right, so that was number 9. Number 8. This is something that people should not be doing, and moving forward, I wish that people would not do, but it is definitely something that we see all the time. Number 8, thou shalt not no call, no show. Not only does the no call, no show make it difficult for the location where you're supposed to be working, if your shift is to relieve the officer that was there before you, in a lot of circumstances and situations, that officer, although they're not necessarily mandated to stay, in a lot of situations they kind of are, because that officer who needs that job, who, wants to stay in the good graces of the company, doesn't want to put the contract in jeopardy, they have to stay, because if they don't, there might be an issue with the company that they're working for. They might be held over their head. So the people that are more reliable, the people that are more responsible within the company, they end up getting bit. They get bit in terms of having to stay. They get bit in terms of potentially not being able to leave on times. And it can cause all kinds of problems just because one specific officer decided to no call, no show. Now, I'm not an idiot. I know that anything can happen. Stuff happens in your family. Things come up. Like, there's all kinds of, potential or possibilities for anything to happen that can interrupt you getting to work or going to work or being able to get in. I've had situations that have popped up in my life over the past year. I get it, right? But just let somebody know. Like, I don't know why, like, the current generation that we're in right now, ghosting is a thing that you do with people that you're done messing around with. You don't ghost your job. You don't ghost your coworkers, right? No call, no show. Definitely a thou shall not moving forward. Hopefully, I could have a whole podcast on people calling off or calling out or no call, no shows. I think I lost my light. Hang on a second. We have to go old school. You're not going to be able to see my beautiful face as much. All right. Number 7, thou shalt not take it personal. You cannot take private security personal. You can't take how people talk to you. You can't take how people think about our industry. You can't take the little comments that you get on YouTube. Right? No matter what you're doing and in what capacity you're doing it, if you're working in private security, you're going to catch flack. You're going to catch flack from people. You're going to get disrespected. You're going to get called out of your name. You're going to catch hell. It's just one of those jobs. It's one of those jobs, and it comes with the territory. Now, do I like it? No. Do I appreciate it? No. Do I think that it's necessary a lot of times? No. But it is what it is, right? So if you're working in private security, you cannot take what we do personal. You can't get personally offended. You can't get personally attached to, man, I'm like struggling here. Hang on. I'm getting killed over here with my lights. You can't take any of it personal. You know what I mean? It's a job. It's a job that you're doing. Hopefully you're doing it to the best of your ability, but don't take it personal and don't allow yourself to get so frustrated and so disrespected that you break your character and you do something that you're going to regret, right? Don't take it personal. All right. Number 6. Okay, wait, hang on a second. All right. Let me see what I got here. So unlicensed was 10, under the table was 9, 8 was no call, no show, 7 was take it personal. All right. 6, thou shalt not fraternize. I tell you guys this from firsthand knowledge. The biggest mistake that I ever made in my life was having an affair at work. It ruined my marriage. It ruined my relationship with my kids. It ruined a great job opportunity that I had at the time. And I've said this, many times on here before. Every time that I went before a police review board or applied for a position within law enforcement, I had to disclose that I was terminated from my job. And when I disclosed that I was terminated from my job, I had to bring up the fact as to why I had gotten terminated. So that situation that happened many, many years ago has come up many, many times since then, even recently. And it's something that I have to talk about and have to bring up. It wasn't worth it. The small amount of time that I spent with this person, the interaction that I had with this person was not worth what it cost me and what I lost and the respect that I lost from my family and my children. It wasn't worth it. So definitely thou shalt not fraternize. Okay. Number 5, thou shalt not do too much. Private security guards have a huge issue with overdoing it. You're going to be given your standard operating procedures, your post orders, whatever it is that they want you to do in any location, in any capacity, it's going to be written out. If you're working in a licensed situation, right? Just follow the procedures. Don't overthink the contract. Don't overdo the contract. I know that a lot of times in private security, because we're the ones who are on the floor. We're the people that are in the mud, so to speak, right? The people that write the contracts and the people that are at the top of the corporation, they don't always get out to see what happens in the actual work environment. They're in charge of security contract and getting people to agree to what they're going to pay, but they're not necessarily day to day. So a lot of times as a security guard, you do see things that could be changed or things that could be better, things that could be done differently, things that would potentially run more efficiently. I get it. But you know what? The people that you work for don't give a shit. They don't care. They don't want to hear it. They want you to go to work and they want you to push the button at the time that they want you to push the button. They want you to do things the way that they want you to do things, whether it's good, whether it's bad, whether it could be better is irrelevant. You're a cog in the machine. Just be the cog. If you want to do something different, if you want to do something better, if you have a different approach to how you think that, security could work, you have to start your own company. You have to then go out, put your house on the line, put your mortgage on the line, put your credit on the line, start your own company and take all the risk. But if you're working for people who have done that and they are assuming all the risk and you're the employee, you just have to do your part. Don't do too much, okay? Let's see here. Number 4, thou shalt not impersonate. Let me say that again. Number 4, thou shalt not impersonate law enforcement. We are security guards. Your uniforms should say security. They should not say enforcement officer. They shouldn't say, state agent, unless you're in Pennsylvania where you truly are a state agent. They shouldn't say, armed protection officer. It should say security. There should not be any question when someone sees you from the front, from the side, from the back, in my opinion, they should know that you're a private security guard. It should be very clear on your patches that you're a private security guard. If you wear a badge, it should say private security, right? There's no justification for private security guards giving off the impression that they're law enforcement, because we're not. We have a very specific job. It's a respectable job. You should be proud to be working in private security. If you're not, get out of the industry and go do something else. Also, if you want to be a cop and you want to do cop stuff, go apply for the job. There's a lot of places that need cops. So if that's what you want to do, go do that. But don't impersonate, okay? Number 3, this is going to be painful to hear. You have to realize that you're always going to be wrong. Always. No matter what you do the right thing, they're going to find a way for you to have done the wrong thing, right? No matter what action you take, it's going to be wrong. No matter what action you don't take, wrong. If you do what they have written on the paper, wrong. If you go and do something other than what's written on the paper, wrong. Once you realize that, for the most part, and I'm making a generalization here, for the most part, almost everything that you do that comes into the light under scrutiny, The second that it becomes an issue that the company you're working for has to answer for something, the contract holder that you're working for, the client, has to answer for something. Once it comes to light, once it's being scrutinized, the security guard is always going to be wrong. I don't care what the circumstances are. I don't care what the situation is. Hands-on event, stopping a shoplifter, getting involved in a shooting, getting involved in a fight. At the end of the day, once people start questioning and the issues of liability come up, the private security guard is going to always be wrong. Once you realize that and you recognize that, you'll be able to operate from a better position of understanding, and you'll start to interact with people and do your job from a safer perspective, because you know that you're going to be the one that's hung out to dry at the end of the day. Okay. Number 2, thou shalt understand that training is solely the responsibility of the officer. Thou shalt understand that training is solely the responsibility of the officer. The vast majority, there are a couple, but the vast majority of companies are not going to invest in your training. And there's a reason for that. They're not going to invest in your training because they don't want to train their competition. They don't want to train you and teach you and bring you up to a point where you say, hey, you know, I can just go do this on my own, and instead of taking a portion of the money, I can take all of it. Or I can take the lion's share, right? Matter of fact, I can take the lion's share and I can undercut the business that I was working with that's trained me and potentially do harm to their company or put them out of business. So most companies are like, look, we're going to hire people. We're going to give them the bare minimum. We're going to put them in a position where there's not really a chance for advancement. And we don't have to worry about competing with them down the road, right? But you still have to be knowledgeable and able to do your job. You have to be able to function at a very proficient level to be successful and safe working in private security. So you have to get that training. Firearms training, you know, techniques in terms of clearing areas, potentially CQB, your first aid, your CPR, understanding your individual first aid kit, how to stop the bleed, all of these things. And then we haven't even talked about the soft skills like de-escalation, communication, being able to articulate yourself in a report, interacting with law enforcement. All of these things are so important. But it's going to be up to you to, number one, recognize that you need that training, which most security guards don't, right? And then to be able to seek it out, find it, and then potentially, you know, have to pay for that yourself. Now, at the end of the day, if you go, look, I'm already stretched thin, I can't afford to pay out anything else. I'm already paying so much money for what I'm doing. Okay, but at the end of the day, everything else that I said, 10 through 9, that stuff's going to come back to bite you in the butt, because these companies are expecting you to know everything that I just listed out, right? How to, almost done. How to understand the use of force continuum, knowing when you can utilize your less lethal or your non-lethal items, knowing when you can utilize deadly force, right? Understanding how to write those reports. All of this is something that every company is going to expect you to be able to know how to do, and to be able to know how to do it at a high level. And if you don't, see whichever number it was where I said you were wrong, because that's what's going to happen. The number one thing, the number one truth, the number one commandment, okay, in private security is that you have to take this job seriously. You have to take this job seriously. I see a lot of people working in private security, not paying attention, not investing in themselves. I see a lot of people working in private security getting into arguments with people, getting into verbal back and forths with people, making threats. Perfect example, you know, somebody's talking shit, you're talking shit, They leave the store. I'll be back when you get off, motherfucker. Yeah, I get off at 11. Let's go. I get off at 11. Come on. Guys, I sit here as somebody who personally knows a private security officer who was shot 9 times in his car. Killed him. Great kid. Bright kid. Whole life ahead of him. This private security game is not a joke. And people make it out to be a joke, and people constantly say it's a joke, and people constantly talk down to us and tell us what we're not able to do, what we can't do, who we're not. I'll be all that. But the reality is security guards get killed weekly. And if you're working in this industry, whether it's unarmed or armed, you have to take it seriously. Because the game takes it seriously. And if you find yourself on the wrong side of it, you can end up like so many people who you can Google right now in the news that have lost their life over the last couple of weeks, guys. It happens all the time. And I don't want it to happen to you. If you're a security guard and you're watching these videos, I don't want it to happen to you. I don't want it to happen to me. But that's why I live this shit. I don't just come on here and make videos, guys. You can look me up. I live this. I train. I put my heart and soul into it. It's not a joke. All right. So let me go down my list one more time before I get out of here. I'm starting to have to write things down because I'm getting old. Like I'm literally the old guy in the room now. Number 10, do not work unlicensed. Number 9, do not work under the table and do not bottom feed. Number 8, stop with the no call, no show. Number 7, do not take it personal. Number 6, do not fraternize. It's not worth it to have an affair at work, whether that's with a coworker or someone that you're working around or with, right? Number 5, stop doing too much. Number 4, do not, under any circumstance, impersonate a police officer. Number 3, you have to know and always understand that you will always be wrong. Number 2, that training is solely your responsibility. And number 1, please, 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 I am begging you, take this job seriously, okay? Let me see what we got on here. There's a lot of comments. Have you seen Wrath of Man? I don't think so. Warden asked. Warden, I don't think I've seen it. I'll look it up. I might. I watch movies all the time. No license. You should not be. Dub security. Absolutely. No call, no show is the reason people work under the table. That's a very good point. Hey, have a good one, bro. Someone says I should join the Coast Guard or the National Guard. I did 6 years in the Air Force, guys. Centurion said, what's the discussion topic? The discussion topic were the 10 truths, or if you'd like to say, the 10 commandments of private security in 2024. Cooper Miller says, thanks for sharing your experience. My pleasure, bro. Someone says, you ever beat the living stuffing out of a bad guy? No, I don't normally do. I do my absolute best to not hurt people. I have tossed a couple, though. Huh. ZC says, unrelated, lately I've put Echelon's model of security by community into practice. Didn't care for the idea initially, but lately I've been seeing success with it. I was wrong about it being lame. You know what? I'm going to make an entire video about that tomorrow. To be continued. Terry says, yes, please take it seriously. It's not just a lazy job. Douglas Peterson says, dang, no way, man got smoked. Yeah, his name was Sir Charles Jones. You guys can Google the story. They just found his killer earlier this year. Great kid. don't get me started. I'll start to cry about it. Someone says, may I ask you a question? What are the 5 elements of the First Amendment? This is important if you don't know. The 5 elements of the First Amendment. Yeah, I know it. Okay. Freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of religion, freedom to petition your government, and freedom to assemble. Those are the 5 elements of the First Amendment. Motherfucker, I'm a patriot. What are you talking about? All right. Wrath of man is not a real... Okay. All right, I'll look it up. And then Chad says, thank you for your service. And I got those 5 elements of the First Amendment. There you go. Boom, 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 boom. Y'all have a great night. Be safe. Take care.